I have the historical setting and context for Enoch because in the Bible we barely have anything about Enoch, but then we have all this pseudepigraphal and writings that come later. You know, for instance, the Hebrew or the Jews think of Enoch as Metatron. He became the angel Metatron. And meta, meaning changing. And so
I always thought that was
uh,
such a futuristic alternate name for Enoch,
it's Greek.
like
Yeah,
Transformers or something. Or
yeah. But what's really cool is that there are equivalents to Enoch in other cultures. So I want to read some of those. The least known are the one in ancient Mesopotamia, which I think is the most interesting. For example, we have from the Sumerian text. Now, Mesopotamia is a mix of Sumerians, which are the black-headed people, uh, and then you have the Akkadians. The Sumerians typically were led by a priestly group. The Akkadians came in and they were more of a conquering war type group. They had more of a Semitic language. Um, Babylonians had a completely different language. They both mixed in, and so we get a combination of both of these things. One of the Sumerian priest kings of Sippur was called Enmedaranki. Enmedaranki. He, again, this is they claim it's pre-flood for them. This is a king who lived 21,000 years. Now, you remember they have a base 60 or base 6 counting program. Sorry, base 60 counting program. So it doesn't necessarily mean 21,000 years literally, but it's more contextually. And you'll notice that the years of the reign of kings typically changes when writing and literature changes. It's kind of like a difference between Old Testament and New Testament. So pre-flood for them is kind of like their Old Testament, and after that is their Noahide period, which is typically their New Testament for them. I find that very interesting. The connection with this is his role was he was taken up into heaven by the gods and taught the secrets of divination, the calendar, stars, the cosmos, and then he passed this sacred knowledge onto humanity. Then we have the legend of Adapa, which is a mix between Enoch and a little bit of Adam. This is an Akkadian mythological figure, and he was semi-divine sage who journeyed the heavens. He was a wise figure who revealed astronomical and other divine secrets to humankind. A variant of his story even describes his enthronement in heaven, a motif later found in some Jewish texts about Enoch. What I find significant here is that Adapa came in much later, during was it about 14,000 BC, around that time. This is also the time
1400 BC.
Around there. Yeah.
14,000
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
So it came in around the time of when we see kings like Akhenaten, where they're having their own Adam and Eve story be brought about in Egypt. Here we have the legend of Adapa, which is kind of an Adam and Enoch story being brought about in Mesopotamia. In fact, Adapa, instead of naming animals like Adam does, what Adapa does is he's naming characteristics. So he's giving names to characteristics. And in a way, you could kind of think of this as giving a characteristic to an animal. And I think we see this combined together in Genesis when we hear about the serpent, which is wise. That's the characteristic and the animal being combined together. I think this also goes into how writing was developed anciently. Adapa is just that new. It's hard to explain. There's a lot to explain, but I think it's interesting and worth studying. Then we have Atana. This came out later. This is a mythical king of Kish who is also compared with Enoch. Basically, all of these people had uh, a temple procession or a procession where they're brought up into heaven, God's presence, and they're asked to partake or not partake. They're clothed with something, they're asked questions, and then returned back out into the world. Similarly, we do this when we enter into the temple and go into the Lord's presence and pass through veils and are asked questions.